Our rational thinking alone cannot cope with the answer to the question about the meaning of our existence. Carlos Castaneda, The Fire from Within. The boundlessness of human possibilities is inspiring. With our eyes, we see the cosmos, and with our heart, we are capable of perceiving the infinity of the universe. Our power as human beings is immeasurable, just like the mystery of the world that we embody. But can we come closer to unraveling this mystery? Definitely, yes. How exactly? Through the accumulation of awareness. What is it, and why is it vitally necessary for every person? The answers to these questions can be provided by the philosophy of Nagualism, written about by one of the most enigmatic and mystical authors of the 20th century, Carlos Castaneda. Nagualism is the teaching of the indigenous Toltec people who lived in ancient Mexico. The key aspect of the Toltec teaching is the energetic fact of the three attentions of a human being. According to Castaneda, the three attentions are the mystery of human awareness, which reveals the true meaning of human life. Through the depth of understanding the three attentions and the sublimity of the Nagualism teaching, as well as through exploring its connection with other philosophies such as the philosophy of the Knights of the Rose and Cross and Theosophy, we have a chance to approach the comprehension of the inner human essence. First, we will briefly but thoroughly familiarize ourselves with the basic concepts of Nagualism mentioned in Castaneda's books. Then, through a clear and understandable interconnection of the described categories, we will focus on the energetic and mystical essence of the three human attentions. So, friends, let us quickly approach the realization of the greatness of the ancient knowledge, the traces of which Carlos Castaneda has left us as a legacy. Nagualism teaches that a human is a magical being and their attention is divided into three parts. One part is responsible for the connection of a human with the world at the level of rational activity and is called the first attention, or the tonal. Another part represents the magical and hidden side of human consciousness. It is called the second attention, or the Nagual. And finally, the third element of human attention is the highest state of their consciousness. It leads to the highest sensitivity and concentration on the wholeness of the surrounding world to such an extent that the boundary between the human and the world dissolves. In his books, Castaneda writes that at this moment, a person is engulfed by the fire from within, which constitutes the essence of the third attention. Carlos Castaneda, in his works, leaves evidence that the energetic facts that form the heart of the Nagualism teaching were formulated and perceived by mystics who lived until the times of the conquest in Mexico. Castaneda calls them the ancient seers. Other mystics who restored the lost teaching after the extermination of the ancient seers by the conquistadors are called by him the new seers. According to the words of Carlos Castaneda's teacher, the Yaqui Indian Don Juan, the key difference between the ancient seers and the new ones lies in the fact that the new seers sought to approach knowledge systematically, building a hierarchy of concepts and facts in a strict and clear sequence. Unlike them, the ancient seers preferred simply to use knowledge without paying due attention to its explanation. It is precisely the fact of striving to organize knowledge and build a terminological base that would clearly describe and explain this knowledge, as well as the systematic and research-based approach to its acquisition, that, according to Don Juan, is one of the key aspects in distinguishing the method of cognition of the ancient seers from the techniques mastered by the new seers. The eagle and the eagle's emanations. The knowledge of the Toltecs says that at the foundation of everything lies the primordial force, which was named the eagle by the ancient seers. This name was chosen by them because the force that created the world was perceived by the ancient sorcerers in the form of an eagle due to the limitations of their system of describing the world. Following this, the ancient sorcerers saw that the entire world is permeated with thin energetic threads, which the new seers called emanations. According to the perception of the new generation of sorcerers, the eagle is the source of the energetic threads. Carlos Castaneda wrote that a human, cocoon, energetically, is a luminous cocoon, inside and outside of which there is an infinite multitude of emanations. Those of them that are enclosed inside the human luminous cocoon were called by the new seers internal or minor emanations. The energetic threads located outside the human cocoon are external or major emanations. Perception. Nagualism teaches that the minor emanations fully reflect the major ones and are their complete correspondence. In other words, the energetic structure of a human contains the properties of the external world, and in all respects is a reflection of the structure of the universe. At the same time, Castaneda writes that the minor emanations every moment come into correspondence with the major emanations located outside the human cocoon. This adjustment of emanations is the eagle's command. A human cannot avoid this process. The force that adjusts the energetic threads inside the cocoon with the external energetic threads is called perception. Don Juan told Castaneda that every human possesses perception from the moment of their birth. This means that, according to the philosophy of Nagualism, each of us, from the first day of our life, is in close interaction with the surrounding world, both on the physical and energetic levels. The human area of perception. Castaneda writes that the multitude of internal emanations activated by human perception in everyday life is called the area of the known, or the area of the tonal. It is thanks to this multitude that a human builds the world of everyday life with which they are accustomed to interacting. In addition to the area of the known, a human has access to another multitude of emanations that are not activated in the ordinary state of consciousness. This area is called the unknown, or the area of the Nagual. It is the unknown, together with the known, that represents all the possibilities of a human as an energetic being. The area of the emanations of the known and the unknown constitutes the human area of perception. Since the minor energetic threads inside the human cocoon reflect the entire multitude of major energetic threads located beyond its boundaries, besides the human area of perception, there is a multitude of emanations inside the cocoon corresponding to the entire diversity of the universe reflected in human nature. This area is called the unknowable, the glow of awareness. In his books, Castaneda describes the process of interaction between external and internal emanations, which is always accompanied by the glow of emanations both inside and outside the cocoon. As soon as human perception establishes a correspondence between the minor and major emanations, they begin to glow and the human begins to be aware. Nagualism teaches that seers perceive the process of awareness in the energetic structure of a human as a bright glow of energetic threads. At the same time, Castaneda describes high or low awareness of a human as the result of greater or lesser pressure of the major emanations on the minor ones. In other words, the awareness of a human, according to the seers of Nagualism, is determined by how closely and consciously their perception interacts with the energetic categories that constitute the surrounding world. The beauty and grace of the Toltec teaching, as described by Carlos Castaneda, among other things, lies in the fact that the categories and facts with which Nagualism describes a human and their surrounding world are in close interaction with each other. Flowing like streams from the life-giving sources of ancient wisdom, they merge into a single bottomless river of knowledge, flowing into infinity itself. The assemblage point. Seers perceive a human as an energetic cocoon containing the minor emanations of the eagle and capable of coming into correspondence with the major emanations thanks to human perception. Castaneda writes that at the same time there is always a small area of increased glow on the human cocoon, resembling a point. This concentrated area of glow seems to slide along the cocoon, highlighting certain emanations. Seers call this energetic formation the assemblage point. It is the position of the assemblage point on the cocoon that determines which minor emanations inside the cocoon will be brought into correspondence with the external major emanations of the eagle. Therefore, when the position of the assemblage point changes on the cocoon, the human's perception of the surrounding world also changes. Experience and attention. The philosophy of Nagualism defines attention as a critically bright glow of emanations inside the human energetic cocoon, caused by their constant activation by the human as a result of accumulated experience. In other words, the more a human activates a certain part of their awareness, the more habitual this part becomes to them, and their perception concentrates on it. This, in essence, constitutes the definition of attention. The emanations that are activated more frequently by a human glow the brightest. This is why it is said, where attention goes, energy flows. A clear understanding of the discussed terms leads us to the definition and description of the three human attentions. The first attention, the human area of perception in which the minor emanations are constantly activated by a human for perceiving the world of everyday life, represents the first attention of a human or the area of the known. The Toltec seers call this attention the tonal or the area of the tonal. Don Juan said that the tonal is what we are as ordinary people. He taught Castaneda that every human has their personal tonal. On the other hand, all of humanity has a single tonal, which describes the world in categories considered understandable and clear to all people of a particular era. In other words, the tonal is a clear sequence of reactions or programs in human consciousness, thanks to which a human reacts to the manifestations of the surrounding world and describes them. Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist of the late 19th and mid-20th century, educator and founder of analytical psychology, described the collective tonal as the collective unconscious, in the images of which he saw the source of universal human symbolism. According to Carl Jung, it is the collective unconscious that determines the behavioral patterns of people, which constitutes the essence of their common tonal. The key aspect of the tonal is its ability to build an inventory list. Thanks to the inventory list, the first attention organizes all the information coming from a human's senses. With the help of the inventory list, a human interprets in familiar categories what they feel when interacting with the world. This is how they build and describe the world in a habitual manner. According to the Toltec teaching, the tragedy of the tonal lies in its tendency toward dictatorship. In other words, having once built an inventory list in human consciousness, the tonal tries to fit everything with which the human interacts into it. If this fails, the tonal ignores what does not correspond to the created picture of world description. This is how the first attention treats the other part of human consciousness. The second attention. Together with the first attention, the second attention constitutes the duality of a human. Castaneda describes the second attention, or in other words, the Nagual, or the area of the unknown, as a multitude of emanations that is included in the human area of perception, in the energetic cocoon of a human, but is not activated by the human throughout their entire life. The Nagual is a vast and immeasurable area of human consciousness that includes all human abilities as a perceiving being. This is why the Nagual is the hidden but accessible part of a human's awareness. Castaneda writes that the ancient seers developed practices to cultivate the second attention by igniting one emanation at a time located in the area of the unknown. This was the result of them getting stuck in the quagmire of the second attention, contemplating their imaginary greatness detached from reality. Don Juan said that the climax and culmination of the flawed worldview of the ancient seers was their manic obsession with the belief in their own invulnerability. Blocked by such a vision of things, they were unable to oppose anything to the real threat from the conquistadors who came to seize Mexico, except for the conviction of their own immortality and power. In contrast, the new seers saw that besides the area of the known and the unknown, there is the area of the unknowable. Instead of igniting emanations one by one like the ancient seers, they practiced the simultaneous glow of all minor emanations located in the human cocoon. They called this glow the third attention, or the fire from within. In his books, Castaneda emphasizes that it was the third attention that opened before the new seers the boundless horizons of human perception. Starting from the idea of the erroneous conclusions reached by the ancient seers, the new seers began to structure all available knowledge, as well as the knowledge they accumulated through seeing. They called seeing the process of establishing correspondence between the minor emanations located in the area of the Nagual and the major emanations outside the energetic cocoon. If perception is an equivalent process but with all emanations accessible to human awareness, then seeing interacts only with the emanations of the Nagual. The fire from within is the revealed and developed human awareness, in which all emanations in the human cocoon are illuminated by a glow of high intensity, thanks to which the boundary between the minor and major emanations called the human cocoon dissolves, and human awareness merges with the force of the eagle, with the call of infinity. Don Juan said that the highest achievement of a human being is to reach such a level of awareness while preserving their life force and self-awareness, which dissolves as death approaches. One of the key ideas of the philosophy of Nagualism, about which Carlos Castaneda wrote, is the idea of weakening the tyranny of the tonal and transferring control of consciousness to the Nagual by ordering the tonal. This is how, according to the Toltec teaching, a human acquires the vision of the unknown and fully realizes their potential. Don Juan taught Castaneda that the tonal of a human consists of two parts. The first part embodies action and acting, human instinctive impulses without reflection or deliberation. This is the disordered side of the tonal. Unlike it, the second part embodies decisions and judgments, the ability of a human to rationally perceive the surroundings. This side represents a more complex and more flexible tonal. The first attention, which combines the harmony and balance of the two sides, Don Juan called the correct tonal. The correct tonal can be reorganized and, when ordered, is capable of transferring the reins of control to the Nagual. The correct tonal is a developed intellect in which the instinctive human part is subordinated to the higher cognitive ability. To achieve this, all members of Carlos Castaneda's group received academic education. It is the developed intellect that can constantly take human perception beyond the description of the world, perceiving new ideas. Thanks to the comprehension of new ideas, new emanations are constantly activated in the energetic cocoon, which were not used by the human before. Through the perception of new ideas, each person explores uncharted areas of awareness. This is how the correct tonal increasingly comes into contact with the depth and boundlessness of the Nagual, bringing the human closer to the fire from within. From this follows the colossal conclusion that a human is capable of revealing their awareness only through close interaction with the surrounding world. By exploring and delving into the mysteries of the universe, they ignite new emanations in their energetic cocoon, which make the awareness of the Nagual accessible to them. Castaneda writes that the correct strong tonal is capable of freeing human consciousness from its dictatorship and constantly restructuring the formed inventory list, developing intellect and erudition, as well as reconfiguring human perception to the awareness of new ideas. To more fully and deeply penetrate the mystery of the three attentions about which Carlos Castaneda wrote, let us turn to the philosophy of one of the most mysterious and mystical knightly orders of the late Middle Ages, the Order of the Knights of the Rose and Cross. The Rosicrucians are a theological and secret mystical society, according to legend, founded in the late Middle Ages in Germany by the mystic and occultist Christian Rosenkreuz. According to the philosophy of the Rosicrucians, the world is illuminated by three suns: the physical sun, whose appearance is accessible to all people. They called the Son of Jehovah. Its warmth and rays nourish and give life to all beings on the planet. In addition to this, there is the intellectual sun, called by the Rosicrucians Lucifer. The developed intellectual sun becomes the soulful sun, which is called Christ. According to the philosophical views of the Order of the Knights of the Rose and Cross, these suns, although they illuminate a human, do not emit their own light, but the reflected light from the true spiritual sun, which they called Vulcan. Lucifer represents the intellect not illuminated by spiritual light. This is the first attention or the tonal of a human, which describes and organizes the objects of the surrounding world, making it tangible and understandable for human consciousness. By itself, the tonal is incapable of creating anything. It can only organize and describe existing data. The Rosicrucians said that Lucifer is the false light that must be redeemed by the true light of the soul, Christ. Christ is the revealed sensory perception of a human, their second attention, or the Nagual. Lucifer and Christ constitute the duality of a human as a cognizing being. Feelings and sensory perception are the second instrument of cognizing the world, alongside the intellect. Developed sensory perception expands human consciousness, allowing them to explore the intangible and subtle nature of things, both within themselves and outside. By developing feelings, a human gradually approaches the awareness of the true spiritual light emitted by their spiritual sun. Thanks to feelings, a human comes to the realization of unity with the spirit of nature and the world, with the single force of the universe. Thus, a human ignites with the fire from within, transitioning into the third attention. Philosophers assert that by developing intellectually and comprehending the mysteries of the world, a human, thanks to their research potential, reveals within themselves an understanding of material life. It is the ordered and strengthened by clarity and understanding material life with which a human interacts through the intellect that, according to the mystics, is the foundation for the spiritual life of a human. The spiritual side of human life opens for human consciousness the second, larger, and hidden part of the world with which they interact thanks to their revealed feelings and developed sensory perception. Thus, in the striving for unity with the mysteries of the world, a human attains the wholeness of themselves. But how to understand that the feelings are being revealed and their activation is not an obsession or hallucination? Revealed feelings free a human from illusions. Illusion is the game of the tonal. It's programmed for manipulating and confining a human in the first attention. Thanks to overcoming illusions, a human activates the second attention, delving into the understanding of emerging feelings. The greatest illusion that a human encounters in the first attention is the illusion of disunity. Not seeing the single essence of life in other people, a human isolates themselves from the collective human consciousness of which they are a part by the fact of being born in a human body, and locks themselves in their first attention, completely submitting to its manipulations. Thus, a human blocks the revelation of the second attention within themselves, and the circle closes. Overcoming illusions is the natural condition for the revelation of the Nagual. The wise ones of this world have left each of us the only effective tool for developing the second attention. This tool is sincere and creative labor. The striving for creation is the fundamental impulse of a rational human who realizes their direct involvement in the fate and evolution of the entire human family. Thanks to selfless and creative labor, each of us develops a creative principle within ourselves, which activates new emanations of the second attention in consciousness. Through creativity, we learn to see the world clearly and without illusions. Creativity is the foundation of sincere labor. It is precisely thanks to sincere labor and the further revelation of feelings that a human attains their individuality through the Nagual and departs from the illusory uniformity imposed by the tonal. Through creative and selfless labor, a human learns to see the force that leads them to take responsibility for their own life and the conscious duty to labor for the benefit of all humanity. Thus, the tonal submits to the Nagual. To look at the question of the three attentions from another magnificent perspective, let us turn to Theosophy. Theosophy is a philosophical and mystical teaching that was popularized by the most educated woman of her era, the mystic and occultist Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in the late 19th century. According to Theosophy, matter is governed by three categories: faith, idea, and force. Faith is the subtlest category, which corresponds to the human spirit. The idea is the category perceived by the intellect. Force is the domain of the physical body. The sensory perception of a human, their soulful son, Christ or the Nagual, through faith comes into contact with the world of the spirit and perceives the subtle and intangible category, the idea. Reacting to the idea, the second attention transmits its image to the developed intellect of the human, the correct strong tonal or the first attention. Thanks to the intellectual son, Lucifer, a human, clothes the intangible idea in tangible forms, describing it with known intellectual concepts and constructs. By activating force, a human embodies the idea in the material world. Thus occurs the mystery of the materialization of the inspirations of the human spirit in the world of forms. Thanks to revealed feelings and developed intellect, a human is capable of materializing intangible forms. It is this fact that constitutes the essence of the magical nature of a human. Don Juan said that the spirit of a human interacts with them through signs, the Nagual notices them, and the tonal interprets them. Mystics assert that when human feelings come into contact with the sphere of the spirit, illumination occurs. Illumination is a sign of sincere, creative labor for the benefit of all humanity. Illumination is the flashes of the emanations of the Nagual in the human cocoon under the pressure of the major emanations. It is the call of infinity captured and deciphered by the human. A human is a dual magical being capable of materializing ephemeral, intangible forms thanks to their feelings and intellect in the material world. With the help of new ideas and sincere creative labor for the benefit of all humanity, the impulses of the spirit penetrate human life, gently and non-violently changing life in accordance with the higher subtle principle of the human. The development of the second attention occurs only through close and conscious interaction with the surrounding world. The research potential reveals new and unexplored facets in the human. Through the ordered, strong tonal and revealed feelings, they fully realize their inner potential as a cognizing being. The word happiness is the union with the mystery of the universe through the fire from within. Happiness is the conscious participation in the true evolutionary growth of the entire human family through the development of the first, the revelation of the second, and the attainment of the third attention. Happiness is the natural striving of every rational human toward their home in eternity, which they once left.